Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum, good evening. Thank you for joining us once again on Week in World with Huma, where we guarantee you meaningful conversation, information, entertainment, positive time pass if you may, generally good television viewing. Our regular viewers would have come to expect something out of the ordinary from every edition, and we are not going to disappoint you tonight. Tonight, we have the honor of having with us Pakistan's premier cartoonist with over 200,000 cartoons published, having received the Sitara Imtiaz from the government, as well as numerous other accolades. Please welcome Dr. Shaukat Mahmood, also known as Maxim. Dr. Saab, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me as well.
Dr. Saab, does it ever dawn upon you, hit you that over 200,000 cartoons, over 200,000 topics or things that you wanted to say, and you said it in one small picture?
Well, it has been happening since I've been making cartoons for almost now 50 years.
Exactly.
So 200,000 I think is not enough. Maybe
That's
it will
true.
continue. So
I'm sure there must be many which were never printed.
Not many, but a few of them were never printed. They're still with me, and that is, I think, the requirement of the, let's say, society or journalism or politics.
True.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. Dr. Saab, I would like you to take you back in time. But before that, some essentials as a personality trait that a person who would eventually become a very successful cartoonist, satirist, should have. Some qualities, some personality traits, some characteristics. I know sense of humor is one.
Of course, sense of humor is one, but maybe a little bit more than that, sense of satire, which is an additional quality in cartoon. Then a good drawing.
Of course.
And when I say good drawing, I mean you should be able to draw a person who should look like a person, and at the same time it should look like a cartoon.
Right.
So you don't have to write this is Benazir or this is Nawaz Sharif. You don't have to be that explicit. That kills the very flavor of a cartoon.
Right.
So the drawing is another one. The third one is the what should I say, caption. That is the real thing, and that is the punchline of a cartoon.
Right.
Sometimes people say the best cartoon is that which has no caption.
True.
But if you come to the political cartoons, caption makes a lot of difference.
I can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine.
So I think if you have these three things, plus an additional ingredient would be observation. If you can observe things, observe society around you.
But
so
Dr. Saab, you must then have seen the two faces or more of a lot of people, because ye to hota rehta hai in Pakistan, sometimes in the office, sometimes out of the office.
Yeah.
Sometimes they love your work, sometimes they are going to put every roadblock in front of you.
Yeah, this is happening, and this is not happening with me. This is happening with every political party member also. They are sometimes in one party, sometimes another party. And to me it looks very funny. A person is in one party today, he is appreciating the same party. Next day, by virtue of Lafafa, he goes to another party and he started criticizing the old party.
Right.
It's very funny. I mean, we have no conscience. We are not conscientious. We have no zamir, what should I say, to be more explicit.
Right.
So we change our opinion so quickly. This is difficult with me. I cannot do that.
But I must say that despite of all the roadblocks and hurdles that you might have had, nothing stopped your passion, the progress that you were going to make, and your name. I mean, everybody knows you. If we think about a premier cartoonist of Pakistan, a good one, not just to fill that slot, your name comes up. So despite people coming and going, you are still around.
Well, I think that's because I am not affiliated with any party.
100%.
That is this. I am affiliated with my people.
Right, absolutely.
It's because of that. My opinion is always sincere, frank, candid, and honest. Not favoring anybody unnecessarily.
There are some of Maxim's cartoons that you come across, in newspapers and magazines, and you wonder that this person who had the sense and the humor behind it to put it on paper, what must he not put as well? Because I'm sure that you have to be very careful, or you assess what can be printed, what is printable, what people will stomach, what they will digest, what they will not. So a lot of it must be inside you.
Yeah, but gradually I think the attitude of the people, common man, toward cartoon has gradually changed. In the sense that maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 5 years ago, I couldn't make as hard a cartoon as I can make it today. Because now people can digest it and appreciate it, and the politicians cannot catch me. Because if they catch me, then public is with
Exactly. Now the
me.
public has
Now
also
that
become
change
digital.
has taken place. But there was a time, let's say the time of Ziaul, you couldn't make a cartoon against Ziaul, or
Although
about
there was
even
so much
about
material.
Ziaul, about Ziaul. But then look at the time of General Musharraf. I was out of Pakistan. I was sending my cartoons from Malaysia to my newspaper, and he gave me pride of performance. And every cartoon was criticizing him. So I think he has given two things to this nation. One is the free media, and second is the freedom of speech.
That is very
And I
important.
think the nation should be grateful to him.
Absolutely. I'm sure
Yeah.
pockets of them
Yeah.
do realize that as well.
Right.
But coming back to you now, again, you mentioned something like 50 odd years that you have been,
Yeah,
making
doing
cartoons
cartoons.
and all. So you have seen most of the eras or time
I've seen.
stages of the country as well. So I'm going to take you back in time and ask you about the most progressive time, the most lucrative time, the most demoralizing time that took the country perhaps back as well. Because at least when we talk to, people of perhaps your generation, my mother, father, my, elders in my family, they do promise us that there was a time when things were actually going in the right direction for this country. This might not be it, but there was one.
Well, we can divide into two. For example,
Sure.
I think the time of Ayub Khan was quite progressive. The things were getting better and better. But then if you come to the cartoons, it was not a good time. You couldn't
Okay.
make cartoons against him.
No tolerance either
Yeah.
over there.
And then there was no tolerance, and then after him, Yahya Khan, no tolerance, and Ziaul Haq, no tolerance at all.
At all, yeah.
And then even in the Bhutto's time, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's time, there was no freedom either.
Although one would think that that was a very progressive man, if not
In
anything
certain
else.
aspects, but not when it comes directly criticizing.
To his own
Bhutto,
self.
that was a difficult thing. I mean, in a way, it was a written law that you can do and you can write and you can criticize anybody except Zulfikar Ali Bhutto.
There you go then,
Yes,
doctor.
yes.
Then there is no difference between then, a very...
Yes, but so, now you can just see where we stood in various times. But then the worst time was, of course, Ayub Khan's and Ziaul Haq's time. And
Right, right. Well, I'm hoping that, since we are having a very free and fair discussion over here, I am hoping that times might have altered, changed a little bit, that at least we can sit here and, reminisce and talk about what was happening then and what is happening now. Dr. Saab, I really want to know that you had a stellar career anyway. Right now, currently, Dr. Saab is working as HEC professor at the Research Center, College of Art and Design, Punjab University here in Lahore. He has, of course, an MA in Fine Arts, gold medal over there, MSc in Architectural Conservation, PhD from University of Edinburgh. Of course, he makes cartoons in the nation as well. He started his career from UET as a lecturer. So, but this is
Yes.
what has given you the recognition, the name, everything else. That perhaps was not your primary, career.
Yeah, no, it was not. It was not.
Yeah.
And people say I love to draw during my childhood. This is something people don't know.
Yeah.
Normally say कि मुझे बचपन में शौक था. I never did make cartoon in my childhood. But when I was doing my BA from Government College Lahore, my father retired. He was an income tax officer, but income tax officer, fortunately and unfortunately, in 50s they were very, very honest.
Thank God there was a time when they were.
But, so there was no money. And my father, I remember when he retired, he came to home and said, if you want to study, now earn and study. I remember his sentence. So I asked my teacher, Khalid Iqbal, if I can get some job. And he sent me to Hanif Rame. He used to bring out a weekly magazine by the name of Nusrat. Nothing to do with Nusrat Bhutto.
Okay.
She was almost not known at that time.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah. So I started making cartoons. For 50 rupees, I used to make about 40 cartoons every month. Because it was a
way.
weekly, and the central spread was all full of cartoons. So each cartoon was worth 1 rupee. So this is how I started my cartooning. But then a little anecdote attached to this is that when I got married, we went to Miawali, where there was my wife's sister, And one fine morning, a lady came and she was looking at the palms of everybody in the family.
Okay.
And I was also got a little inquisitive, and I showed my hand also. And she looked and looked, and then she said, "Das diyan." Everybody said that. Everybody got very inquisitive, and she said this, and said, "Okay, bataएं जी." So she said, "You will become famous, but not by the name which parents have given you.
Oh my.
It will be some other name." So that was a surprise for me. So I just laughed at it. And second, she said that you will have 2 marriages and 13 children. But I am short of one wife and about 11 children.
So one thing came
one
true.
thing came true, very true.
The other one did.
And I still remember that. How did that lady said so?
I'm assuming on Dr. Saab's behalf that the good one came true and the other one did.
Yeah, otherwise,
But that is awesome, so that works as well.
yes, I mean, it's strange to me, and we all remember that, that anecdote even today.
But over, your span of 50 odd years, you have immense interaction with people. Every passing year, it's a younger crowd because obviously you're a teacher at heart. You have students coming in, going out. You are the person who have a good sense of whether Pakistanis as a nation have a sense of humor or not.
They have, definitely they have. But when they become politicians, they lose that spirit immediately.
That's another story altogether.
Yes.
But otherwise, in daily
people,
chores.
No, people love to look at the cartoon. I mean, I receive many calls, for example, and they say, what is the first thing which we see in the newspaper? We straight go to the leader page and look at the cartoon. And when the cartoon is not there, they feel something is missing.
Of course, I'm sure. People who are hooked onto it as well.
Exactly. So I remember the quote from Churchill, the Prime Minister of England. He said that if I don't see my cartoon in the newspaper, I think I am getting unpopular.
There you go.
In Pakistan, it is reverse.
Exactly. People should, or politicians rather, in Pakistan should take cue from that very thing you said about Churchill.
Exactly.
That is your popularity as well. But coming back to the sense of humor of the common man, I feel, and perhaps you can add to it, that there are so many hardships in this country as well. Despite how we look and how we talk is another story. We are talking about the masses here. I feel that if they did not have that sense in them, it would be very difficult to, just live your life, to lead your life.
The humor is the salt of life. You cannot escape this. And I think humor is in everybody.
Right.
Humor and satire and irony, I think this is in everybody. The way how you look at the things and appreciate them. If you are too melancholic sort of person, then you may not appreciate anything.
True.
But you have a little bit of humor in yourself, then you can always appreciate. And then I think amongst all the provinces of Pakistan, I think Punjabis are more, more humor-liking.
Or tolerant towards.
They're tolerant to humor, and they can make fun of others, and they can make fun of themselves also.
Exactly. I think that is the important part.
Yes, that's the important part. But then there are certain groups of people they don't like. They would like to criticize others, but they don't want to criticize themselves. As somebody said, the small anecdote also, that when somebody slips over a skin of banana, why people laugh?
बेचारे को hurt हुआ.
And the answer is because they didn't fall.
Very apt.
The man who fell, he didn't laugh.
Yeah.
So we can laugh on others, but we should learn to laugh on ourselves also.
Absolutely, and I think that is a very endearing quality as well if you're looking for something else.
Exactly.
And what about vis-a-vis in comparison to the rest of the world? You're very well traveled. You've studied, you got your PhD from England as well. With the rest of the world, do we take it easy? Are we very humorous? I know that we are very hospitable people. We are very welcoming people. But in comparison to Europeans, Americans, you have taught in Malaysia. You worked there as well.
Well, I think this is something which exists everywhere. If the humor is good, they would like it. Though it is different from the style or the type or what structure of the humor is. Humor varies from place to place. Humor is very subjective. For example, the cartoons or the strip cartoons which are printed over newspaper, which are taken from other Western newspapers, some of us cannot understand.
Exactly.
Because we are not tuned to that. But
Or
if
those
we,
are not our problems.
That are not our problems. So otherwise, I think humor is everywhere. And from West, we have a lot of influence in humor. For example, Punch magazine was the first to bring out a magazine which had a lot of cartoons in it. In fact, Punch remembered for that. And now, you look at any newspaper, any journal, any periodical in the West, then there is no newspaper, no publication without cartoons.
Absolutely.
In fact, there are newspapers who are having 3, 4, 5, 6 cartoonists at the same time, and they are busy making cartoons. But in Pakistan, we have dearth of cartoons. I mean, this is a country of 180
million people.
and 180 million people, but not 18 cartoonists.
Exactly.
People
You're
say
very
that
right.
there are deaths of doctors, there is death of cartoonists also.
I would love to have your take on this very sometimes demoralizing, sometimes it riles you up controversy regarding our very recent Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala Yousafzai. There is the very province that she belongs to refuses to acknowledge her. And then there are different kinds of small or big, large federations inside Pakistan who want nothing to do with her, who are out to make No Malala days as well. Since you are a humorous man, I really want to have your take on it. What's going on? Why can't we accept if somebody amongst us has done well, exceptionally well?
Well, my question would be what well which she has done.
Well, I think she came to the limelight, if I may, much later than from when she had been working. She had been writing those blogs for BBC for a very long time before she was shot. My take is that Pakistanis themselves found out about Malala after she was shot, never before when she was actually doing great work.
No, maybe for that matter, most of the girls or women are doing that job also.
Right.
But then I think I will sum up this episode like this, that we have made a mountain of a hill.
True.
I mean, there are people who have done much more than that for Pakistan, like Idi Saab.
Of course, that is one name that, regardless, there's no comparison.
Why Idi Saab cannot get the Nobel Prize? Why this girl? I mean, the issue has been blown out of proportions. I am not against her, but the size of the propaganda or the publicity she got outside Pakistan is enormous, and it is out of proportion.
I could compare, Malala's Nobel also with President Obama's Nobel, because when he got it in 2008, right when he had just become president of the United States, a lot of people, just like this, also pointed fingers at him. What has he done so far? Wait for him to do something,
Exactly.
and then we'll see.
Well, I think this Nobel very recently has become also something to be debated about.
Absolutely.
Sometime back they gave award to the killer of the Muslims, Begin, the Prime Minister of Israel. He had been killing Muslims and he killed thousands of them in Shatila and etc., and he got Nobel Prize. So I think this is like the national awards we get in Pakistan.
Let's not talk about ours, because you got a Sitara.
Well, I got two, but I have a very good background also. For Pride of Performance, I was out of Pakistan. And for Sitara Imtiaz, honestly, I tell you, I didn't know about it even 24 hours before it.
I can totally relate to that.
I mean, I don't know who did it. Musharraf was criticized by me. So there must be some angel sitting somewhere doing some good work for me.
Absolutely. Yes. Doctor, have you ever feared, like really feared for your life because of the work that you do?
I haven't feared, but my wife does that. That's her job now.
You have given that department to her?
Full-time job, because I remember once I made a cartoon that our president, Khan Sahib, what was his full name, he is sitting, President Ishaq Khan, he is sitting and a painter is making his portrait. And during those days he was in controversy with Nawaz Sharif. So instead of making the president picture on this canvas, he is painting black sheep. Now when I was making this cartoon, my wife said, "Ye chap gaya the, tusi jail chona hai." But then the newspaper refused to print it. But then sometime later it was printed, and then at one occasion, in one of these parties, a minister came to me and said, "Shaukat Sahab, that was a wonderful cartoon." So I didn't know which cartoon he is saying. Then he said, "वो जो सदर साहब बैठे हुए हैं और आप वो सर जो पेंटर है वो बकरी बना रहा है। तो देखिए हमारे आर्टिस्टों का मयार भी कितना गिर गया है। He didn't know what the proverb is behind that.
ओहो, बकरी समझ लिया ब्लैक शीप को।
ब्लैक शिप को बकरी समझ रहा है। This is so मेरा सर पीटने के अलावा मेरे पास और कुछ।
That is also
So this is the level of most of our politicians, not all, but most of our politicians.
You know, I was asking Dr. Saab earlier about the criteria of how a good artist, a satire artist could be and what are the requirements there. But to understand satire, you got to be smart as well. Otherwise, it's going to like totally fly off you.
Oh,
And
yes,
it would,
you have to be.
and most often than not, you will be offended because you will not know what's going on.
Yes, yes.
So, Dr. Saab, when you also interact with your students, as I was talking earlier, you know, new generations coming, you connect instantly as well with the youngsters around you?
Yes, I am always amongst the youngsters.
Exactly.
And you feel that way
I
also.
think you feel young also when you are amongst the youngsters. That gives you that young...
That is a positive effect on you.
Well, I don't know about myself. I can say for Mudassir, we have a while to get there as well. You know, we are young, so we are... You feel connected with us, we feel connected with you. Dr. Saab, are you done with my caricature? Could you like turn it around? I am like dying to see it, by the way, excitement. Oh my God, and what is it? Thank you, that's very nice. This is, you know, you have to have the heart to take it. So I'm very thankful to you that, and I can't believe that while we were talking, you just, you know, made that.
Yeah, but the cartoon or the caricature is something which people generally don't like.
No, I'm going to frame it.
I remember I exhibited some of my cartoons at Awari some time ago. And there was one cartoon about Anwar Maqsood. And he is holding a plaque in his hand and it's written on the plaque that, "Watch me if you can." Since that day he has not seen me again.
Oh my God. Dr. has lost a lot of good people along the way because of their...
This is a suicidal mission.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, by the way, for making that for me. But once again, let me tell you, obviously we were talking about it, but cartoonists are rapid-fire idea generators who make political points or tell jokes using only one compelling picture, and that is the toughest, I think, thing to do. Thank you to Mudassir for coming, Shagufta, thank you for coming here as well and doing what you were doing. That is awesome. And of course, Dr. Shaukat Mahmood, thank you so much for talking your heart out, being candid, and for making this for me. This is going to be on my wall of fame. Bas yahi hoga aur kuch nahi hai. Thank you so much once again. I hope you liked today's show. See, there's a whole avenue, you know, a whole subject, a whole, I would even say, profession. You own it. You can do it. They're doing really well as well. There's a lot of struggle, as is in any other field that you join initially. And then you find inroads and you know what to do next. So try it out, all the artists, funny artists out there. And of course, catch the repeat of my show and write to me and tell me how you found it. Take care. Be safe. Allah Hafiz.